Our first award is the Marian Opala First Amendment Award. Named for the late State Supreme Court Justice Marian Opala, this award recognizes individuals who have promoted education and protection of the individual rights guaranteed by the First Amendment. This year, the award goes to Michael Salem.
Michael's nomination letter stated, "Michael has long been recognized as a fierce advocate for the First Amendment. He has never shied away from controversial causes as he has advocated for those whose First Amendment freedoms were being trampled. His successes in the courtroom are taught in our law schools, and Michael himself has taught many continuing legal education courses on the First Amendment and constitutional law in general. Along the way, he has won many awards, but he has yet to be recognized by Freedom of Information Oklahoma. I think it's time to honor Michael Salem for his lifetime of advocacy, education, passion, and inspiration." Congratulations, Michael. Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's really an unexpected honor to accept the Marian Opala First Amendment Award. For the last 45 years, I've been very fortunate to be involved in many First Amendment cases and other cases under the Bill of Rights. In fact, if you go to the website of my law firm, it says the Bill of Rights is our client. But the preceding phrase in the name of the award is Justice Marian Opala, and it's an even greater honor to receive an award named after him. He was a friend of mine and a man I greatly admired. His dedication to the rule of law and the Constitution was a cornerstone of his legal and career and his life, one that many lawyers and other people should truly emulate. I was one of those fortunate people who had the opportunity to eat lunch perhaps a half a dozen times at the Lido restaurant, which was a place that he frequented. For such a casual comment about lunch, lunch with Justice Opala wasn't really particularly an easy feat. You see, he was a regular at the Lido. He had his own table. There was generally reserved for him and his guest. If you wanted a scheduled lunch with him, it was wise to give some lead time, more than 2 or 3 weeks perhaps. That's because he was typically booked up more than a month in advance. You want tickets to Hamilton? That was easy compared to a golden ticket for lunch with Justice Opala. Usually I was there in the presence of others, but once it was just the two of us, and I'm a lawyer, and I asked questions and he answered questions about the time before he came to the United States. And it was during that conversation it occurred to me that the primary source of his respect and devotion for the Constitution and the First Amendment was his description of his wartime experience living in an authoritarian regime and his eventual membership in the Polish underground. I believe it was from that experience came his commitment to the Constitution, but it was a commitment that also came with a responsibility, and that was his indefatigable effort at civic education, whether it was teaching at law schools, giving CLE presentations to lawyers, or speaking to innumerable public talks at organizations such as FIO Oklahoma. With the recent concerns about social media, I have been thinking a lot about the First Amendment, especially when I hear remedies that are being driven by government. Those are always concerning. I'll candidly admit that the concern is whether the First Amendment has met its match in social media's marketplace of ideas. This was identified by Justice Holmes in his dissent in Abrams versus United States, when Holmes said, "The best test of the truth is the power of the thought to get itself accepted in the competition of the market." It seems to me that there's a lot of rotten fruits and vegetables in the market these days, and we always thought that the counter speech doctrine, that is the solution to bad speech, was more speech. Justice Brandeis identified in Whitney versus California. He said, if there be a time to expose through discussion the falsehood and fallacies, to avert the evil by the processes of education, the remedy to be applied is more speech, not enforced silence. So will this work? Justice Opala thought so, and that's why he dedicated himself to Brandeis's processes of education, to promote civic education along with others such as Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. And they should not be alone. We each have a responsibility to join in that effort and to promote civic education about government, and each of us should join together to make the Bill of Rights our clients, as Justice Opala did. As difficult as it may appear at this time, given the foibles of human nature to believe falsehoods, we also need to promote civil discourse with this civic education, because if we do not, we have clear lessons from history that demonstrate that democratic majorities will embrace and have embraced authoritarianism. And unless we do our part, they may again. Thank you again, FOI Oklahoma, and thank you to Justice Opala for the example that he has set as a civic educator. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Also, on behalf of FOI Oklahoma, we want to give an honorable mention to attorneys Megan Lambert at the ACLU of Oklahoma and Catherine Gardner with the Reporters Committee for the Freedom of the Press. As we've seen an increasing number of government entities willing to test the limits of the law or eschew it entirely when it comes to transparency, increasingly we are turning to attorneys like Michael, like Catherine, like Megan, to ensure that these public entities are held to account and that the public is allowed to have the oversight and the transparency that we rightly deserve under the law.